Hello and welcome to my Dragunity deck profile. This archetype is actually one of my absolute favorites of all time, and I'm really happy that it's actually going to get support in about 3 months or so as well. So I decided to make a video, kind of like a little bit of preparation to let people know what cards they kind of need for the strategy. I'm actually talking about that in a deck, as well as I'm going to make probably a video, hopefully during the end of the week, talking about all of the new support, all of the 10 new cards, including the one from Blazing Vortex, essentially scaling them and just talking about them generally. So if you're interested in that, it's probably going to happen during the end of the week. But beside that, I'm going to remind the usual subscriber thing. You know, if you want to help the channel, it will be really cool. I'm making more videos like this every week that I'm able to. So that's something that I'm doing, and I'm always trying to be better, and I'm hoping we'll get to 2,000 until the end of the year, although it looks a little bit less likely. But I still want to thank all of you that essentially we got to a very high point from last year. But beside that, and without further ado, let's jump right into the list itself. Alright, before we jump right into the list, let's talk about the deck price. So for the deck price itself, because Dragunity is going to get support in the next couple of months, in Ghost in the Past set, some old stuff is getting very much hyped. I do have a feeling that some of the old stuff is going to get reprinted in Ghost in the Past, but just to let you know that prices of some of the cards, like from cards that from not Cybernetic Horizon, pre-Cybernetic Horizon support, are getting expensive. So I'm going to try to show their prices right here on the screen, but just to let you know, so if you are trying to get like the deck for cheap, it's not going to be cheap at the moment if you haven't got it yet. But now let's get started with the list itself. So starting things off, we're going to start off with 3 Sanitas, 1 Dux, 1 Mistleton, 3 Phalanx, and 2 Kuz for the Dragunities themselves. You only need to run these 10 at the moment. In the future, you might want to run more once we'll get to the new support, but for now, these 10s are all that you need for the old stuff. So let's get started with this side. So first off, we have Sanitas and Dux. Sanitas is probably the better starter out of these two. Sanitas allowing you to discard any card, preferably these two, and essentially equip the other out of your deck, which is really cool. So you're essentially just getting 2 of your tuners for the price of 1, which is really nice, and then you just do all of your combos, and that's how that kind of deck works. Now it does lock you into dragons, but for the most part you don't really care about this. But it would have been nice if it wouldn't lock you only for Dragon and also allowing you Winged Beast, but I guess that's actually fine. Then we have 1 copy of Dux, which is supposed to be a 4th copy of Garuda, because we don't really have the ability to run a 4th Garuda, because of the fact that, how should I say this? You can only run 3 cards of the same type in Yu-Gi-Oh! Bear Maximum, so, or should I say the same copy of a card 3 times. So, yeah, Dux is essentially supposed to be that, but it also have another nice application, which is sometimes you don't want to search the Sanitas or essentially discard the cards for Sanitas, so, because, like, not always you're able to get 2 of these into your, like, 1 of these into your hand and do all of the things. So sometimes you have to discard something that you don't want to with Sanitas. So Dux allowing you to curse correct by using another extra deck monster, which is Haki Fibrax. If you don't have that one, that's okay. But the point is, Dux allowing you to go to a different direction if you want to go into that direction and essentially not like discard something very important out of your hand. Then we have Armor Mistleton. Mistleton is in a weird spot right now. Because it's not as good as it should be, because unfortunately we don't have cards like Glow that allow us to de-equip the monsters that it's equipped to itself immediately, so the card is a little bit in a weird spot right now, so the only thing that it's good with are these guys, but it's not always good to have like the additional extender for that, because sometimes it's just a brick. So at the moment it's a 1-off, but in the future I might going to say this is a 2 if not a 3-off, because this becomes so much better, because we're able to use Glow Effect to detach something like Gator that we equipped in order to essentially get an advantage on. So this card is okay right now, but it's going to become very good in the future. Then for the last 5 cards, these are the tuners that both have the same effect. They're equipped once they're equipped to a monster as a soft once per turn. They can special summon themselves out of the spell and trap zone and into the monster zone. Phalanx doesn't really have any restrictions beside that, but Kuz does. And Kuz, allowing you to only use it for a Dragunity Synchro Summon, but it can also become a level 4 for that. Now, at the moment, this is not the most amazing thing, but once we'll get Air Bear, which is the new level 10 Synchro for Dragunities, this is going to become a little bit better. But at the moment, this is the lineup of Dragunities that you want to run, because, yeah, we don't really get the new support at the moment. I'm just going to say that. Then now we'll move on into the additional support for Winged Beast and Dragons that is not Pendulum, because we do have a Pendulum section, and that is 3 copies of Garuda, 1 copy of Zephyrus the Elite, 1 copy of Mist Valley Baby Rock, 1 copy of Darkness Metal Dragon, and 1 copy of Tempest Dragon Ruler Storms. Garuda is pretty simple. You banish a wind, not a hard once per turn. You get to special summon it out of your hand, which is really cool. Zephyrus the Elite, you search this with Gayderg, or even if you open up in your hand, and then you just discard it, have it in the graveyard, it bumps something, you know how that goes. Baby Rock, you discard it with anything, it special summons itself from the graveyard, it's not a hard once per turn, but we only need to run 1 at the moment, because it's not really that amazing until we'll get the new support. I do think 1 is just good, but at the moment, like right now, it's more of a brick if you have multiples, so just 1 is fine, but you do need at the very least to have 1. It's also allowing you to create a combo, which is not always the best, but it is kind of like an option to kind of like go Crystal Wing on your 5th summon, so they will not able to Nibiru you. So if they Nibiru you, you can negate it and then just continue extend your plays in a little bit of a different manner. So that's an option, just to let you know about that. So that's really cool. It's part of that combo. You essentially just like get there. And then these two. These two are really cool. Tempest has 3 effects. You don't really care about using all 3 of them. You mostly want to get the Banish effect with Gold Sarcophagus, but the 2 others are also not that bad, because you're able to essentially sometimes like get this into your graveyard with a discard effect, then just special summon it by banishing 2 useless winds from your graveyard because they're not really useful for you anymore. Or you're able to essentially just use this effect to discard Search, and you essentially like discard something like, I believe you can discard something, like this, like you cannot discard something like Dark Worm, you can discard this, and essentially just search for you Dragon Wind. I believe it's specifically restricted to Dragon Wind for that secondary effect, but the point is, Tempest just does so much for your deck. And then Darkness Metal Dragon is really, really good for the fact that it's just allowing you to have this free special summon. Sure, it got nerfed, or should I say errated, nerfed is from other card games. Point is, it's still really good to have this 1 summon. You don't really use it for that more than that anymore, but it's still really good because you need to rotate, at least at the moment, your Gayderg, which is the most important card in your extra deck at the moment. Now, we're going to get the new support. It's probably going to change, or even just stay as a nice extender, but at the moment, this just does what it needs to do. And now we'll move on to the Pendulum package, which we have the 2 Pendulums for, you know, just locking your opponent, which is Lycary and Goliath, the 1 Gate 0, the 2 Dark Worms, and then I want to show this one finally, because this is a card that you should probably get right now if it's not super expensive, because it's probably going to become very, very expensive once we actually get the full Dragunity support, and that is 3 copies of Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon. Revolution Dragon is absurdly amazing in this deck. It's almost served the same purpose as a Pendulum monster in this deck. It's ridiculous how this card is good. It's like, it's almost served the same purpose in like decks that run this with Pendulums, and sometimes even better if you don't consider Odd Eyes. That's ridiculous. You discard this, you search Dark Worm. Sometimes you don't want to search Dark Worm, so you can search the Lycary instead, which is really cool. Or you can use this as a Pendulum scale. Either to Pendulum summon once you have Gate 0, to essentially sometimes refill your board, or do things like that for extension, or just have it in the scale, pop it, and then revive a Gayderg, because his effect says you can revive a Synchro, Fusion, or Xyz Dragon from your graveyard with its effect intact. It doesn't negate its effect, which is really cool, and it's not a hard once per turn for any of these effects. So this card is really, really amazing, and I love this card in this deck quite a bit. And then for the last 4 monsters, these are going to be Hand Traps, 2 copies of Ash Blossom, and 2 copies of Effect Veiler. These are the 2 best hand traps I could find. I wanted to run a 3rd of Ash Blossom, but I kind of like only have the spot for 4 cards, so I just decided to run 2 and 2. And the reason when we're going with these 4 beside like things like Nibiru, Infinite Impermanence, and stuff like that is because these are the 2 best generic ones, and they're also tuners. So sometimes you do need the additional tuners to go to Hacky Fabrics to, like I said, again, course correct, because sometimes you brick or your opponent stop you and stuff like that. So this is essentially allowing you to do that, so that's kind of nice. So these are like pretty much the most generic best hand trap. Also, they're pretty cheap for the most part, so people can get them pretty much for a low price. So that's also kind of nice on that. But that's pretty much does it for the monsters. Now we'll move on to the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start off with the most important one. 3 copies of Dragon Ravine, followed up by the 1 copy of Terraforming and the 1 copy of Dragunity Divine Lance. This is the 5 spells for Dragunity, I guess. Like, even Terraforming is technically counted as a Dragunity spell because it searched this. Point is, these are the spells that you want to run for Dragunity. Divine Lance is a card that you want to search with Ramulus. You don't really want to open up with it in your opening hand, ever. But if you are open up with it, you at least have the ravines to search with it, so it's essentially kind of nice to at least have these as a secondary option. Now, once we'll get Glow, this is going to become so much better, but for searching. But Divine Lance is just a good way to extend at the moment. It's pretty much just a great card, I guess, but only just a good one-off. It is getting a little bit expensive, so if you haven't got your Divine Lances, yeah, that's a problem. But if you have multiple Divine Lances, maybe you can sell these for a pretty penny of like $2 a common. This is actually absolutely incredible that this card is a little bit expensive for that. Point is, Dragon Ravine just serves as a discard outlet and search for your Senatus, and this one is just a combo extender. Now, sometimes you don't really want Dragon Ravine, because sometimes you do have cards that you don't want to discard, and you do still want to get to your Dark Worm, so for the other option, we have 2 copies of Dragon Shrine and 1 copy of Foolish Burial to get to your other options, while you don't really want to discard with Dragon Ravine, which is really, really cool, because sometimes, yeah, like I said, Dragon Ravine is not the best option for the deck, so I decided to go with these 3. I don't think you need more. If you are playing more than 40 card deck, you might want to run a 3rd copy of this, but we're trying to play a 40 card deck, so yeah, you only need 3 of these overall. And then for the last 3 cards, Gold Sarcophagus, Monster Reborn, and World Legacy Guard Dragon. Reason for these, Gold Sarcophagus is just a great card for Tempest. Monster Reborn and World Legacy Guard Dragon are just great extenders, either to, you know, after you get Nibiru or something, to kind of like recover, or essentially just, you know, just get great extenders generally. The reason why I also decided to go with this is because of the fact that a lot of people actually told me sometimes you do need to way to essentially like recover from Nibiru, and essentially maybe this will able to help you do that. So essentially Monster Reborn and World Legacy Guard Dragon are supposed to also serve for that purpose. But that's pretty much does it for the spells and does it for the main deck. 40 cards. I tried to run this at 40 cards and not more than that, even though it was tempting to run more cards. But now we'll move on into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're running 1 copy of Dragunity Knight Ascalon, 2 copies of the important one Barca, which is probably the most important card in the extra deck, or should I say the most priciest card out of the extra deck beside Hacky Fibrax, 1 copy of Gaydurg, 1 copy of Loon, and then we're also going to throw off the 1 copy of Remus for the Dragunity lineup. Or should I say Ramulus. Ramulus, you summon it, you search, it's pretty much what it does, it searches for your Divine Lance, which is really cool. Its arrows are pretty nice, but mostly like that's what you do, you just search Divine Lance with it, and if you open up with Divine Lance, you just search Dragon Ravine. Then you have Loon, which Loon is incredible, a lot more than people think. Back in the day, I remember when people actually called this card really bad, but it's actually incredible because this is allowing you to go with Dark Worm in a tuner and summon with it this, and it still serves the same purpose, and then you make Remus. Now, of course, it's because of also, or should I say Ramulus, because of Ramulus, it became a little bit better, but yeah, these 2 are just really good for your starters. Gaydurg is the most important card in the extra deck that I mentioned, that allowing you to essentially, like, you know, search and discard things like Zephyros the Elite immediately, or Mist Valley Baby Rock, which is really cool. And then you have Barcha, which is just equip all of your Dragon Tuners from your graveyard, or should I say Dragunity Dragon Tuners from your graveyard to it, which is really stupid on summon, or should I say it can equip any dragon type Dragunities, but mostly right now you're going to use this for you know, the tuners, so you can equip 3 of them, and it kind of becomes like kind of like a mini soul charge, which is pretty nice. And then Ascalon is just nice for OTK / popping. So yeah, this pretty much does it for the Dragunity package. Now for the rest of the extra deck. So for the negate stuff, I guess, Crystal Wing, Savage, and I guess we can also throw in this guy, which is Heavenly Sphere, or should I say discard. These are supposed to be serving as your kind of like interruptions. Crystal Wing and Savage, pretty self-explanatory. Heavenly Spears is the card that you're trying to have to end up in your extra monster zone because it can help you essentially deal with things like Alpha King of Beast. But sometimes you're not able to end with this there, so just to let you know that sometimes your combos are a little bit going weird, so do understand that sometimes you're not able to end it there. But if you're able to, and you have enough extenders, you want to try to end it there, and you have this, and then the Goliath, and I think another interruption overall. Actually, no, these 3 interruptions, and then a Goliath to end up your board, which is actually pretty strong, either then, regardless. And then for the rest of the extra deck, for the small fry, that I'll help you get there, Pisty, LP, Haki Fibrax, I guess also you can throw Tri-Brigade, or Triple Burst, I don't know why I said Tri-Brigade, Darkness Metal, and then 1 Herodic Dragon Atom. Like I said, Haki Fibrax is not really that useful in this deck, beside the Curse Correction with Ducks, or if you open up really badly. But the rest of these are really good. LP, even if it was going to get banned in the latest list, we just were going to cut the, what are called? I forgot their name. The Armorphage lineup, so you're just like, you don't really need this beside of like, you know, just using this for summoning the Armorphages out of your extra deck. So it's really, or should I say the main deck, so it's really not really that important that much. So worst case scenario, you could have used this by using I guess Herodic Seal. So this card, even if it's going to get banned, it's not the end of the world. The more important for this deck is actually Pisty, because it's a monster reborn. And then you have Triple Burst because it's allowing you to use the arrows correctly, and then this one, which is, if you are able to put Herodic Seal in the extra monster zone after you, like, you know, summon this, you want to try to do that and not use his effect, because it and Herodic Seal conflicts. But if you cannot, this is the other best option to essentially, like, you know, allowing you to summon the level 4, or do whatever, summon the Pisty, and essentially just, like, end your board there. So sometimes it's a little bit in a weird place, but for the most part, it's just used as, I guess, as kind of like an extender vanilla for the most part, but sometimes it's actually better because you don't really have the extensions to go to Herodic Seal. So it's kind of like in a weird spot at the moment. And then for the last one, we're talking about Atom. At least at the moment, Atom is really important because it's allowing you to get Red Eyes Darkness Metal out of your extra deck, or should I say main deck? I don't know why I keep saying extra deck. Allowing you to get Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon out of your deck, which is then allowing you to proc another useful effect of Gaydurk. So that's really important, and I like this card quite a bit. But that's pretty much does it for the extra deck and does it for the deck profile. So hope you guys enjoyed for this one. We're going to jump on into the next section right now. Alright, so for the combo itself. Now for the combo itself, I actually decided to only go with one combo for 2 particular reasons. The first one of them is because the fact that most of the combos kind of like end up being the same overall, kind of like, you know, the baseline of them kind of like going to go be the same. And 2, these combos are very long, and essentially I also need to explain them. But the point is, at the moment right now, this is like the most vanilla version of the combo, which is 1 Dragon Ravine, 1 Supreme King Dark Worm, and 1 Phalanx. Now, if you specifically open up with Gates, with Foolish Burial instead of a Dark Worm, you essentially search the Ducks, and you kind of like going into a different route that's like, you course correct in a certain point. You're kind of like doing the same things that I'm going to show you right now, but instead of that, like, you use the Ducks and use 1 tuner instead of 2. Like, you have 1 tuner less in the graveyard for the combo itself, but you do course correct later, which I'll show where that spot is. So the point is, for the most part, this kind of like, even if you open up with the Foolish Barrel, it's kind of serves up the same purpose. So let's get started. So starting things off, you're going to use the effect of Dragon Ravine. You're going to specifically discard the Dark Worm if you do not open up with the Foolish Burial. If you open up with the Foolish Burial, you're essentially just going to discard the Phalanx and search the Ducks. So that's the big change with this one. Then you're going to use Dark Worm effect, special summon, search the Gate 0. We're then going to use the effect of Senatus. Senatus is going to search the Phalanx, equip the Koos. Koos will then special summon. You're going to use the Koos and the Dark Worm to make Loon, which only require the Dragunity tuner. And Loon is going to equip back the Koos, allowing you to special summon it, and use Koos and Senatus to make a Gaydurk. Gaydurk is going to search and discard the Zephyrs the Elite, because you want it in the graveyard, and then you're going to make with these two the Atom. Atom is going to detach the Gator specifically. You want to detach this specifically because you want to use Darkest Metal effect to specifically revive the Gator. Gator will then go to search Baby Rock. Baby Rock will then special summon itself. And this is where the point that I'm going to say, like, you only need one Baby Rock for the most part. I don't think you need a second one. If you want a second Baby Rock, that's totally fine. I just feel like for the combo itself, right now it's kind of a brick to have more than one. But you can do whatever you feel like it. The point is, you want to search the Baby Rock and then special summon it. Then you're going to use the two dragons that you don't need anymore to make the Romulus. Romulus will then go to search for you the Divine Lance. You're going to use Divine Lance to equip it, and then equip yourself the Kuz. Kuz will then special summon, and then you're going to use Zephyr's the Elite effect to special summon itself by bouncing back the Baby Rock, because you're going to use it later. And this is where you course correct, because it's something that I want to mention specifically. If you specifically have Ducks in this combo, instead the instance is going with the Ducks Foolish Burial combo, you're going to use Kuz and Romulus to make a Haki Fibrax and summon another Kuz, or use Phalanx and Romulus and summon a Kuz out of your deck. You want specifically to summon a Kuz out of your deck, which is pretty important. So if you essentially know that you only have one Kuz in your deck, you want specifically just have one Kuz in your deck when you have the Haki Fibrax. Point is, one thing that I should mention is that Kuz effect says that this card can on the field can be treated as a level 4 monster when used for a Synchro Summon. If it's used for a Synchro Summon, and can only be used for Dragunity Synchro Summons. Now, this is not an activated effect. In Haki Fibrax, what does it say, Haki Fibrax? Let's read the effect of Haki Fibrax to just let you know what it says. If this card, you can special summon one level 3 or lower tuner from your hand or deck in defensive position, but cannot activate its effect this turn. This is not an activated effect. This is an effect that is permanently on the card. It's an effect that is just ongoing. It's all the time happening, and this has become a level 4 tuner. So you could make with this the Barca. So essentially, what you do, again, like I'm going to mention again, you're going to use the first Kuz or Phalanx or whatever you want to. You're then going to make with it the Haki Fibrax if you don't have 3 tuners. And then you're going to summon the third tuner, which will be specifically a Kuz. So you have to summon specifically a Kuz with the Haki Fibrax for this one. But other than that, you essentially going to use these two to make the Barca. Barca will then equip the 3 tuners that you have in the graveyard, and then you're going to use the Phalanx effect, special summoning itself, and turning it and the Gaiderg into a Crystal Wing to essentially clean up your board. You then get to special summon the 2 Kuzes, going to turn one of them into the Pisty, and then you're going to use Barca and Romulus, because you don't need them anymore, to turn into the Triple Burst. We're then going to use Pisty's effect to summon the Gatorg. Now, we're not going to use Gatorg effect yet, because if you're going to discard a Baby Rock, Pisty is going to lock you and essentially not allow you to use Baby Rock, or should I say special summon it, because Baby Rock is a winged beast and not a dragon. Instead, we're going to use Pisty and Triple Burst to summon Darkness Steel, which essentially just free up the option. Then you're going to use the effect of Gatorg to add the Lycary, send the Mist Valley Baby Rock to special summon itself, then summon Savage. Savage will equip Triple Burst. Triple Burst will give it 3 tokens, and then, or should I say, counters, and then essentially you're going to use the Kuz to finally make the Pisty, because you can. Now, in this particular spot, you could just immediately put the Lycary Scale, and essentially just be done with it and summon the Goliath, and this is already like the old board of Dragunity, but what we can do a little bit more and essentially just make the board a little bit stronger and able to deal with stuff. Well, we could throw this card away, even though its effect is really good. The only purpose for this card, essentially in the extra deck, is like, if you're not able to go Heroic Seal, you have the option to, so it's essentially helping you get there. So just to let you know, it's still an amazing card to have in the extra deck. It's still a card that just really help you to get to your end boards, and I'm pretty sure like it's also really important once we'll get the new support, but it does lock you out of links, and it does require to be in the extra monster zone. So just to let you know, that's why it conflicts with Heroic Seal. Specifically right now, we have the ability to get 1 extender, and that way is because of Pendulum Summon, because we have a get scale 5 and a scale 0. And Lycary doesn't stop you from summoning anything out of your extra deck, as long as you don't really control, an Amorphage, because the Amorphages stop you from summoning anything out of your extra deck. this doesn't stop you. It just says that if you control an Amorphage, neither player cannot activate spell or their effects. So essentially, you're going to Special Summon the Dark Worm, and then turn the Dark Worm and the Dark Steel into the Herodic Seal, and finally use LP effect to summon the Goliath. And that is your end board. 1, 2, 3 interruptions, and then you also have lock from your extra deck and lock from spells to your opponent. And that's pretty much does it for the combo itself. In the future, you use less cards, and you also may be able to make Air to Bear right here, I believe, which is really powerful. I'm not sure if you're able to also make Herodic Seal. You probably just make Air to Bear, and I don't know, we'll have to see. But the point is of this is just essentially there are monsters that can get over this. They can special summon themselves, get over this, don't activate their effects, and essentially, like, you know, you're done for. So this is a good way to deal with them, which is really, really nice. And essentially, like, I think the best example is Alpha, the King of Beast or whatever, Master of Beast. Point is, this is a really good end board. LP is a little bit of annoying, or I should say that it's so small, but you don't really need it anyway. And LP is a card that, if it's going to get banned, you could do the same thing with Herodic Seal. Instead of summoning the LP, you're just going to a different route and just put Herodic Seal here, and you start the Lekari, you put the Lekari in this scale. But the problem is with that is that you're not going to get the lock until Herodic Seal is going to be off the board. So LP is important. It's not super important because it still is possible. But the point is, LP is a good thing that it's not banned. I'm not sure if it's going to get banned next list, but for the moment, it's still here, and we can enjoy it while it lasts. But that's pretty much does it for the combo. Now let's move on to your next deck choices of the next week or so.
Alright, so for the last section, I guess, it's the choose your next deck, I guess. I decided to skip on what I like to call it, side deck, because I kind of don't really know how to play side deck right now for the format, or just generally. I need a little bit of time to kind of like balance my own side decks, because I'm trying to make side decks that are a little bit cheaper, and I kind of need to see a little bit more of the metagame to understand. So I decided to go only to skip that section. For this week specifically. But for the next decks option, I'm going to present it to you. Well, we're going to have the 3 returning decks from last week, which are going to be A for, what are called, Monarchs, B for Predator Plants, C for Cyber Dragons, and D, I'm going to throw a deck that I actually really enjoy making, but I kind of like was a little bit hesitant till recently on essentially sharing with you, and that is Flower Cardian. So if you want me specifically show you one of the most annoying FTKs slash, you know, fun decks with like drawing your deck as much as possible, Flower Cardian could be a nice option for you. Flower Cardian is a deck that I really enjoyed back in the day once Max C was around. But now that Max C is not around, I cannot deck out my opponent with this deck, which is kind of a shame. But regardless of that, that's pretty much it for the video. So hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think I should do to improve? What do you think is going to be happening with the deck? And how do you think like it's going to improve with the new support coming up? And yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.